Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Lackawanna City Council October 7th, 2024 City Council meeting and caucus. The caucus is our opportunity as a council to discuss amongst ourselves the various individual agenda items. Formal vote will be taken once the formal meeting is called to order, which would follow directly after the caucus. And to that end, on the agenda, the first several items up to the fifth under departmental reports are administrative, so we'll move directly to number 6 from our City Attorney John Gahn, as well as Director of Development Chuck Clark. Request City Council approve ordinance adding Chapter 178 transient or short-term rentals prohibited to the city code. Chuck, for the purpose of discussion, you want to give us a quick background on that?
Yes, thank you. So the current city code does not have any criteria at all for the management of short-term rental properties, which are anything 30 days or less. And these are typically things that are advertised on Airbnb, Vrbo, or other similar sites. This review actually came about at the request of Councilwoman Muflahi, who had seen some of this activity going on without any type of oversight or governance going on throughout the city. So we took a look at it. What you have in front of you is a proposal that, after deep diving into it, would recommend prohibiting any Airbnb short-term rental property in any of the 8 zones of Lackawanna. And the reason we came from that perspective are several-fold. One, for all intents and purposes, Airbnbs, Vrbos, short-term rentals, if run properly and administered properly, are businesses. These are small little, hotel overnight businesses that people are running out of their homes, okay? They're very popular in vacation communities, other larger communities where there is actually a code number assigned to them. You have to register the business, you have to pay occupancy tax on the businesses. So really they are small businesses being run out of homes. If you look at the city of Lackawanna's properties, about a little over 60% of our properties fall into either single family residential, mixed residential, or industrial categories. And then the other 30 some odd percent are in like neighborhood commercial, mixed commercial areas. This council, the administration have all been very cognizant of trying to maintain neighborhood integrity where no businesses are operating, in home fronts or things of that nature. So when you look at single family and mixed residential communities, that's the largest share of where our properties are. So we looked at those and said, probably wouldn't be a good idea for them to be there. Clearly, it's unsafe for any of these types of businesses to be in any of the industrial areas of town, which would be the Bethlehem Steel area and surrounding communities. Central Business District is a possibility, but our Central Business District is small. And then that leaves us with neighborhood commercial and regional commercial, which are important areas of the city, but relatively small, and also account for a fair number of residential properties. The only area of our city code that has anything close to managing dwellings similar to a hotel or a short-term stay is the Central Business District. Every other area within our code does not currently have an accommodation for a hotel as an acceptable site plan use. So when we looked at this, and I'm working with Attorney Gahn and digging in the cost benefit, if we're going to do this correctly, we need to have an opportunity to register these businesses. That will allow us to be more efficient with code enforcement, with police calls, things of that nature. We're dealing with a situation now where we have found about 20 of these operating through various areas of the city that are doing so without any type of oversight, governance whatsoever. And the reason this is important to us is obviously public safety is one thing, but I think I've mentioned to a few of you that one of the bigger concerns that we have is that the city of Lackawanna is, with the mayor's leadership, trying to become a pro-housing certified community in New York State. That is a new requirement of Governor Hochul to be able to qualify for things like downtown revitalization grants, New York other New York-based development grants. She has made that a criteria to not only get the money, to apply for the money. So to be a pro-housing community, you have to show the ability to grow housing, protect housing, and make housing accessible. So when you think about a landlocked community like Lackawanna with a small number of properties with not a lot of opportunity to grow, huge neighborhoods like you would have, in a community like Williamsville or Amherst or Clarence, if you were to give up housing stock to Airbnb or Vrbo properties, you're basically taking out of circulation either large single-family residences where, the people, have extra rooms, or more importantly, you're taking away multifamily, 2-family, 4-family, from folks who, otherwise, would look to rent there. And if you say what's the harm in that, rents usually obviously are controlled by markets and neighborhoods and other conditions, and so is Vrbo, but in the case of these rental properties, you can get an event-driven spike in prices that would take people out of contention for being from a rental perspective. So look at it from this way: if you had 20 rental days in a month, and I think we're running about, these properties that I mentioned in Lackawanna are running about an average of $150 a night. Take those 20 rental evenings by $150 a night, and they're making way more money in income on short-term rentals than they ever would probably be able to be in a long-term rental situation. So while that's good for them, it doesn't help the city be able to prove that it's a pro-housing community and protecting and making housing accessible. That said, it's not the end of the world if these businesses did operate here. The issue we have is, given the small number of spaces where these could go, the infrastructure that you would need to register, police, and manage these. And when I say police, I don't mean law enforcement, but just govern these types of events and circumstances. You'd be building the same structure for 20 of these situations as you would for 200. And it would be a tremendous burden, both from a cost, time, and resource perspective, to deal with these properties, many of which are owned by absentee landlords. Some of them are starting to even be owned by out-of-town landlords. And we have, obviously, as you all know, a difficult enough time trying to keep up with code enforcement on long-term rental properties. Now add that to situations where, we've got transient renters coming. And when I say transient, they're moving every 10, 15, 30 days. And it makes it very difficult. The way we sit right now, it is a risk, because we are seeing some uptick in calls about garbage, noise. I can't speak for the police department, but maybe Captain Kukulaka has some insight. These situations do cause neighborhood disturbance, and right now we have no way to manage them on our books effectively. It's a random call without any teeth to the ordinance. So the long and short of it is, we have a new phenomenon in the marketplace called short-term rental properties. Our current code does not provide for any criteria to manage these types of properties. When you look at the track record of where we are looking for businesses to go, plus on top of that, the ability to try to get the city positioned as a pro-housing community, now does not appear to be the right time to bring Airbnbs, Vrbos, short-term rentals into the mix. I close my comments by saying, this is a point-in-time look. This is where we sit today, from a standpoint. If the world changes, if there's sainthood bestowed to Father Baker, or there's other community changes, that all of a sudden Lackawanna becomes a bed and breakfast destination community for some reason, it can be relooked at. But as of this point right now, from a business standpoint, we see this as more of a burden than an opportunity.
Okay, thanks so much, Director Clark. Before we entertain any questions or discussion, Attorney Gahn, is there anything you want to add to this?
I would just add that, first of all, there was a commission that looked into this, which consisted of the councilwoman, myself, and Chuck Clark. So we studied the pros and cons, and we got research. That's number one. And number two, this did go before the planning board, which consists of 7 people.
7 members.
And they unanimously said that Airbnbs or Vrbo short-term dwellings are not conducive for the city of Lackawanna.
Okay, thank you. Any council members have any questions or comments on agenda item number 6?
I'd like to add the situation that had precipitated this particular agenda topic was the city of Buffalo when they were introducing their ordinance in regards to short-term rentals and using that example as a litmus test to what may come to the city of Lackawanna. Instead of us having to go through the trial and error period, I learned from their ordinance and how they're using that and how it's either working or not. After the city of Buffalo introduced an ordinance with regulations, they are also now considering banning them completely. So instead of us having to go through the trial and error process, which will cost us resources, time, and a lot of stress, currently, as Director Clark had mentioned, this is not the right time for the city of Lackawanna to experience that. Given the right situation, the right zoning areas, the housing crisis right now, I have a gentleman that has been looking for an apartment for over a month and he cannot find housing. He's temporarily staying at a friend's house. He's in his 60s. He cannot find housing. Apartments go up for rent and are literally booked in the next day. This would only exacerbate that situation. And I understand there are a few that are operating right now, some without any issues. That doesn't take away from the issues that we're gonna see if this does.
We've seen some issues there.
We have, correct, and there are some that we haven't, but there have been issues that have been brought to our attention as a council and as zoning and, code enforcement. So this decision today doesn't mean that we're never gonna consider having Airbnbs. It just means that at this time, this is not the right path to take if not passed today.
And it's in need of regulation at this point.
It is absolutely in need of regulation, and again, it wouldn't make sense for us to regulate it within certain districts and then find out this is not working and then trying to backpedal or to make changes. I believe that it's appropriate to ban them completely.
And just an additional point that Director Clark and I, and I'm sure the rest of you had discussed them. There is no grandfathering of existing properties just because we're passing it. We may pass this today or we're entertaining this today. There won't be a grandfathering of existing businesses. Is that correct?
That is correct. Based on the outcome of your vote and decision, if it is passed, once it is signed and implemented, there will be a communication to those that are identified, giving them 30 days to wind down their operation. And as you see in the proposed ordinance that City Attorney Gahn drafted, the fees have teeth to them and are meant to enforce the outcome.
And then also, Chuck, if you don't mind explaining, in furtherance of our ordinance, this would then be filed with places, with platforms such as Verbo and.
We would make them aware, and we would, while it's difficult for us to do it on a daily basis, we would periodically, do a scan of these places, just to make sure. But just to be clear, these platforms will take it as information. They will not police it for us. They will just be aware of it, and it'll really be on the community to enforce it, as it is with any community.
I do believe there is a form of disclaimers that, because
Yeah, there is.
So it's very explicit,
Yeah.
especially whenever you enter in certain zip codes. It's not a foreign concept to people who currently own an Airbnb or operate as an Airbnb. When they go on, they're aware by the website whenever they enter in their property that, hey, you have to file with your city or it's banned in your city.
Exactly. And if I may, just one very last thing. This is not unique to Lackawanna. Lewiston has taken these measures. A few other communities throughout the state have taken these measures. Buffalo is learning from these measures. So clearly it's as much about quality of life as it is maintaining residential neighborhoods and housing stock for those people who need them. And again, I think in the long term of Lackawanna, perhaps even beyond when all of us are, still sitting here, it's important that, we set the city up for being able to get future development funds like DRI or New York Forward or any of those things. The economic benefit of those is far greater than any marginal income we would gather from, small Airbnb, rentals. And again, if the world changes, that could be managed at that time, but right now it's just not the right time.
Right, thank you. Any other council members have any questions or comments?
Yeah,
Yes.
what you just said, if this does pass today, can we give them, the people that have existing, Airbnbs out there until the end of the year? You said 30 days, you give them up to 30 days after it's signed, could you give them till the end of the year?
There's nothing saying we can't. I mean, that's our, so if I may, I do have one of these places myself in another county, and it's in a vacation area county. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. The one caution I would give is that if people are looking out in advance of where to stay, and so let's just say you gave them till the end of the year and they're thinking of coming between Christmas and the first week in December, they're gonna book that reservation now, okay? So the sooner you turn off the spigot, the sooner it cuts the reservations and the embarrassment for the property owner to tell people no. Because when they book, that basically is telling them that they're confirmed. There may even be some revenue that's already shared with the property owner, depending upon what their terms are. So is there any prohibition from doing it? No. The downside is the longer you delay ripping the bandage off, the more opportunity there is for the property owner to be in a tough situation to end the rentals. And again, a decision that collectively you all can debate, so that there is no reason we can't do it. I'm sorry, there is nothing prohibiting us from doing it. I think there's a reason to consider making it sooner rather than later.
And if you're looking at a 30-day window, if this is passed, and I believe the mayor would have to sign the ordinance, depending when the mayor signs the ordinance, you have 30 days from then. You're looking at sometime in November already.
Well, I'm thinking about the holiday seasons, I'm sure there's a lot of them that are already booked through Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we would have had an opportunity to look at this ordinance before it was filed on Wednesday for that very reason. And now we're kind of stuck with either passing it or tabling it or whatever the case may be, and complicating what would seem to be a relatively uncomplicated issue. So I don't know, it's gonna be up to someone to file for an amended a motion.
Would it be an amendment to the actual ordinance or just to when when it takes effect?
Well,
Is
the
there a
ordinance,
difference?
when is the 30-day period? Is it noted in the ordinance? And if so, then the ordinance would have to be modified.
It is, John.
Correct.
You have it in there.
So obviously it can be passed and on the books and then technically not enforced until January 1st, 2025. But the way it states right now is 30 days as of the enactment of the proposed resolution or ordinance, it would go in effect.
So I guess we as council will have to decide whether we want to extend it or pass it as it currently exists with the 30-day window. So you'd have to make a modification.
And again, we're not Lewiston, but I'm gonna use Lewiston as an example. Right in the middle of peak summer season, they gave people 30 days to unwind. So they took the approach of shorter is better. And again, I defer to you, but I just wanted you to have that data point as another thing to consider.
Just leave it as.
All right, anyone else? Now moving on to item number 7, again from the city attorney, request city council for the ordinance amending chapter 75 building code administration, Lackawanna City Municipal Code. Attorney Gahn, you wanted to just give us a brief rundown on the where and why of this, since we had passed this originally at a prior meeting, but I believe some issues had to be cleaned up.
Sure. So the actual code, if you look at the attachment or item 7A, it actually said a fee schedule shall be established by resolution of the city council. We changed that word resolution to ordinance because the resolution isn't actually a law. And then we added the fee schedule to the code so the public knows and it's part of the actual code. Whereas previously, the actual fee schedule was not part of the code, despite the code said it was going to be a part of the code. So we just added the fee schedule that was being enforced to the code to revise section 75-16.
Any council members have any questions?
So although it was always the practice, it was just never explicit.
There was a fee schedule, it was the practice, people had paid fees before, I'm just putting the actual fee schedule in the code.
Okay.
Anyone else, any questions or comments? Let's take items 8 and 9 together. They're just a formalization and approval of the contracts for both the fire chief and the police chief. I believe the council approved the contract for the fire chief, however, there was a date change as to the expiration. That would be coinciding with the fiscal year for the city of Lackawanna. Other than that, I believe the contract remains the same. And of course, the terms of the contract for the police chief had been included in the work packet that we received. Any further comment, Attorney Gunn?
No, exactly how you summarize.
Any council members have any comments or questions, 8 or 9?
Yes, if I may.
Yep.
Why were the dates changed? Coincide with the budget year?
Correct, and because the first 6 months, they're approved, and the salary is approved, and the benefits is approved, it might as well be extended for until the end of the fiscal year as opposed to the end of the mayor's term, which is December 31st. Correct,
Right, that's what I thought.
yeah.
I figured I'd just have it clarified, thank you.
And just for the record, the mayor doesn't want to bind any future administration to any sort of contract, which is very courteous of her. But in these instances, it's already approved by the budget, and that is the logic behind the date change.
Right, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Communication from citizens, let's take 10 and 11 together, very similar. Kimberly Smith and Yakina Burse requesting street closures for Fall Festival. I believe both of these have been successful in the past, we've okayed these. Any council members have any comments or questions? Not moving on to business registration, Rinda Nagy Alnor International Retail Store, 1346 Electric Avenue. Anyone have any comments, council, on that application? I believe we all received a packet regarding an ongoing issue with the business location at 1346 Electric Avenue with numerous code violations, citations, garbage citations, so on and so forth. There was an allegation of not so much a mobile home, but a trailer that was allegedly hooked up to the business. There was a question as to whether somebody was actually living there. What I'm gonna do is ask Director Clark to give us any quick comments on that, to bring us up to speed as to some of the issues surrounding this application.
Yep, so the reason that it got put in front of you and signed by everybody was there were a number of ongoing code issues that ultimately got resolved, and thus everybody in the list of signatures that you have in the business application agreed to it. After it was submitted, it came to our attention that two significant things came available on that property. One is the parking of a recreational type vehicle on the side parking lot. And there was a extension cord running from the vehicle into the building. The second thing that came to attention was two corresponding properties to just to the north of that building were full of litter vehicles and other code violation matters. They were cited by the code enforcement team, and as recently as 4:30 today, Scott Hayes, Senior Code Enforcement Officer, let me know that the recreational vehicle is gone, and the garbage and other related matters for the two northern properties were cleaned up and would no longer technically be in violation if we were looking at them today. But it was concerning that after almost 2 years of running violations on this property and finally getting it to a point where it could be presented to you that there were violations after it was submitted.
Perhaps more significantly is the fact that this council was, received numerous signatures, petitions directly against the continuation of this business at that location. You're aware of those, you've seen the petitions, and it's just, I don't remember how many signatories there are actually, but they were substantial. And that should be made part of this discussion. There was a huge outpouring from that community by virtue of the signed petition in opposition to any passage or continuation of this business at that location. Attorney Gahn, anything you wish to add?
Not at this time. I just, there are numerous violations. And, according to the city code, those have to be remedied before people are allowed or permitted to do certain things, namely buy additional property or et cetera. And what has been added in the agenda package basically would be unacceptable to the current city code.
Thank you. Any council members have any comments or any questions on this business registration application? If not, I'm going to formally call to order the meeting for 2024.
During the meeting.
Please call the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could I ask the city clerk to call the roll?
Maflahe? Present. Anderson?
Here.
Moretti?
Here.
Sirdike?
Present.
Morano?
Here.
Law Department?
Here.
Development and Marketing?
Here.
Public Works?
Here.
Public Safety?
Here.
Assistant Comptroller? Here. Recreation?
Here.
Thank you. Hearing from citizens, Rita Nagy. Hello. What do you wish to say?
I want to open it to be a convenience.
I can't hear you.
I wanted to open it to be a convenience store, like food, market, basically like a marketplace, baby food, take a whole list, produce, Eastern food, snacks, smoothies.
She's the one that's gonna be opening the business.
Well, you heard the discussion earlier of some of the problems with that location, right?
I'm the property owner. When I get up there, I'll
Well,
address
you
it.
signed it, you're welcome to come up now.
How you guys doing?
Great, how are you?
I'm good. I'm the property owner at 1346 Electric. The RV was parked there during the weekend. We unloaded stuff on it, off of it. There was no, any cable, extension cord outside or anything plugged to the RV, to the house. All it was parked outside. We unloaded some stuff out of it and I had moved it. Cleared all the violations for the building. The building does not have any current violations. All of them has been cleaned up, passed. I have pictures I can show you. Second of all, for the petition people wrote and signed on false information. He was telling them that I'm gonna come and open a convenience store selling liquor and beer and lotto, which I'm not. I'm opening a Middle Eastern store. I have talked to the store next door to me, and me and him agreed I'm doing something separate than what he's doing. I'm doing a Middle East store and he's doing a smoke shop. He sells something different. And towards the petition that you mentioned about it, this is America. They cannot stop somebody from doing business. I pay property tax there. I pay my taxes. And it's an established business before I bought it. And there's no reason that I should be delayed and stopped from opening a store or a business there. What else next? That's about it.
Well, as you said, this is America, and people in the neighborhood have an opportunity and have every right to voice their opinions and their desires also. And we have an obligation to listen to them also.
And they did, and nobody came to the zoning to stop me. No one came over here to speak against me. No, nothing, there's nothing. All of it was on false information. And if he brought a petition like that, I could do the same thing. And just like the zoning board was here, they told them, take this and get this out of here. This is not acceptable. And I have it recorded on my phone.
Okay, what does that mean to us?
I'm telling you that what you keep bringing it up. It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with me trying to open a business.
Well, there's a process that we have in this city.
I know, of course, and I've been following the process. They're giving me difficult time, and I've been very patient and going through the right process, doing everything the right way.
Well,
And
apparently.
there's a whole tenant that I signed over for my sister to start her own business there. It has nothing to do with her. As one of her stores she's gonna open, I'm the building owner. You guys trying to punish me, punish her for me owning the building.
We're not trying to punish anyone. We haven't even taken the vote yet. But
But I'm telling you, you're bringing stuff up that has
Mr.
nothing.
Nagy, all we're doing is bringing to light some of the things that are affecting that property, which we have put on the record and which we are putting on the record. There's substantial objection to a store opening at that location.
There isn't. There isn't. All it is people, because somebody that's next door works here or has power that's trying to lock me out, not to make me open my own establishment. Because next door, the store next to me is trying to stop me from opening up. That's what he said he's gonna do. He told me with his full power. He's gonna let everybody try to sign paper. I told him you can't do that. When you go shop and you see Tops and Kmart next to each other, Wegmans and Tops next to each other, competition, more opportunity, more store for the neighborhood, it's better for the whole community. There's not a single person in the whole neighborhood that can come here and stood up against me and say, hey, we don't want the store there or this, that. Nobody. Oh, it's false information on the whole narrative. You guys can take your votes.
Thank you, Mr. Nagy.
Mr. Arnott, can I offer one point of clarification?
Yes, certainly.
And I will apologize to you, sir. What was presented to us as looking like an extension cord from the vehicle to the building is actually the remnant of a yellow parking space line that looked like a yellow extension cord. So I will not dispute anything else. I will clarify that point. It's a yellow parking line that is right next to the wheel of the vehicle, so it is not an extension cord as was conveyed and was what I originally thought that looked like. So I will apologize and tell you that that's a road stripe line, not a electrical cord.
Gary, hold on, you can't approach.
On mine now, of the property at 3 o'clock today.
You gotta step behind the podium.
Anything further you want to add as far as what took place at the zoning or planning or any of those other?
Well, at zoning and planning, at the time it was presented, it was clearly conveyed that any of the violations prior were taken care of. They were reviewed and ultimately approved. that doesn't dispute the fact that from the point that application was put to you as a council for review, that there were other potential violations on that site and neighboring
And
properties.
do I recall that you said there was a new violation as of today?
Well, no, the violations were the camper and the condition of the adjoining properties next door that are now
So
cleaned up.
is the property in violation as it stands today?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Jacob Minifield?
How you guys doing? I just wanted here to speak about the Airbnb, the ban. Just wanted to wonder why it was such a harsh move to completely ban them. Because some of us are following the rules. My wife and I, we have 2 Airbnbs in Bethlehem Park. We followed all the rules. We registered the property as an Airbnb. We paid our registration fee, and you're saying there's no grandfathering or anything like that. The registration fee we just paid was for a 3-year period. We're following all the rules. The houses are up to code. We have no complaints for the neighbors. I wish I would have knew about this when I would have brought the neighbors here today. We're good neighbors. We actually cut the neighbors' grass, take out trash for each other on both properties. The neighbors actually have used the home when they have family visiting in town, so they can have somewhere to stay close to them, so they are able to have the family right next door. And I believe there's a lot of misinformation that this council has gotten, that the planning board has gotten as well. I spoke to Councilmember Fly earlier today, and she wasn't aware that there were people that actually registered as an Airbnb in the office, right, when we spoke earlier.
Not that I wasn't aware that we officially have a regulation in regards to registering Airbnbs, so.
We do not.
Yeah, and
We
that's.
do not, but I received a notice from the code office. saying-
What you received was a notice for a rental dwelling registration, so you own.
It was for a rental dwelling.
Yes,
We
so
were
that-
registered as a
So
rental
that,
dwelling.
but that is, forgive me, sir, that is for long-term rental, that is not an Airbnb registration. You registered your property as a rental dwelling, not a short-term rental dwelling, a long-term rental dwelling.
Initially, we had long-term tenants, then we changed over to the short-term.
But you changed over on your own, and as was mentioned here, there was no ordinance, or there still is no ordinance in the city of Lackawanna.
I'll bring the documentation. There was a letter that said you have to register as Airbnb because it was registered as.
Well, I don't know what they gave you. The city has nothing for you to register as an Airbnb.
Okay.
And that will be a function of what the council decides, with the ordinance presented to them. But what you paid for, the 3-year period you paid for, is a long-standing rental registration for properties that are for long-term rentals. The city does not have an Airbnb process. So if somebody told you that, that's mistaken.
Okay, then if it was noted on that document, I'll provide it later. I don't have it with me today.
I can find it upstairs, but there is no such process for you to be applying to. That is the whole point of what's before this body today.
Okay, and as far as the occupancy tax, as of August 1st, that's being collected by Airbnb and submitted to every county directly by Airbnb. So there's no requirement for the city or anyone that has to collect that occupancy tax. It's already paid for by the guest that registers, is collected, they pay the fee directly, and it's sent to every county.
It's sent to every county, but not, because we do not have an Airbnb ordinance and these properties are not registered with the city as Airbnbs because we don't have a process, we're not seeing one dime of that money. So the issue at hand is not only the ordinance, but the registering and governing of those properties. And right now, your property, along with every other multifamily property or large single-family property, is just what it is. It's not designated an Airbnb. You may be designated that on the websites, but you're not designated that here.
Okay. All right. Well,
And Mr. Midfield?
Yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but the fact that we're addressing this issue today is not a direct reflection on you, or the fact that you were running an Airbnb, and you may have done it, and you may have been a great neighbor. This isn't a reflection on you or your family or the business that you were running. But it's the need of the city, because this is a relatively new concept in hotel or rental property or short-term living quarter concept, that we don't have anything on the books, nor do other jurisdictions or other municipalities, but everyone seems to be looking at and taking action of some sort so that we can have regulations and we can restrict where these can pop up, because as Director Clark indicated earlier when he mentioned all this, we're a small community, and our residential areas, we're trying to preserve so that people who want to enjoy a quiet time in their own homes don't have to worry about businesses moving in and starting up next door or across the street or down the street, which interferes with their ability to have quiet enjoyment of their own homes. So we do need to pass something that addresses this.
I agree and I understand, but I
Yeah.
just wish that all the stakeholders would have been involved in this process, including people that are running Airbnbs, the neighbors around those Airbnbs, because our neighbors, they get a perfect night's sleep and rest, that they're never disturbed by them. They constantly tell us, oh, your guests were wonderful, we didn't even know they were there. I'll cut the neighbor's grass for them, and they'll say, oh, you must be having a guest come in because you cut their grass for us. So, I mean, that's the type of neighbor we've been, and we just had no say in this. We had, in other municipalities like Ellicottville, they passed the same thing, but there can't be any more new Airbnbs within a 2.5-mile radius of the village.
Yeah.
But they still allow them outside that radius. So I would just hope that you guys can table this item for now so we can, have further discussions. And I wish you guys can go in the community, see the properties and see who's following. I mean, you can go on their websites and read reviews that people that stay. And as far as helping the code enforcement department, people out there, and it does make comments. Some comments on there from ones I've seen, there was a mouse in the house, the toilet wasn't working. So a lot of these Airbnbs are alerting the code enforcement office that a lot of these houses aren't up to code and there's some issues that need to be addressed. So I think we should work together and we can make the city a better place to live. And top of, with the Basilica, we have some good tourist attractions and people do come into the city and like to enjoy it. We have multiple people that eat at the Mulberry, that they enjoy walking to the restaurant, going back to where they're staying for the evening. I just hate to see this go away. And I get it, there's a couple incidences where maybe, yeah, it was too much, but there's been no police call to any of our properties. We had one instance where someone tried to have a party. We contacted Airbnb. They sent them a message, you have to get out the house within the next 10, 15 minutes. You violated the rules of the house. You kept the money, they lose the money, and they were sent out the house. But no police was called, it was handled. I'm not the absentee landlord. Like I said, we put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money into this. So you have to furnish the house, you have to maintain the house. So we just put another $10,000 roof on in one house. So we're constantly improving the property, we're improving the neighborhood at the same time. I don't think, certain landlords with long-term rentals are doing this. We have long-term rentals, and it was a headache. I don't feel like coming back through the whole eviction court. I mean, that's resources being taken away and used here, city resources to handle that whole eviction thing. And a lot of the rules in New York State follow with the short-term rentals as well. For example, if you have somebody that's staying 30, we have somebody staying for 60, 70 days now. If they say, oh, I'm not leaving, I gotta go through the whole regular New York State eviction process. So that now they're a regular tenant according to New York State. So there are a lot of laws in New York State that we have to follow as well. And the city follows as well until you come up with your own ordinances. So I'm just hoping that you can table this at this time so we can have more time to look into it. And like I said, I would invite you to come to our Airbnbs and see the property, talk to the neighbors, ask them, has there been any issues, ask them openly, honestly. You don't even have to be there, we'll walk you through. If you could just have some parameters, or maybe just have some higher criteria for Airbnbs. Like maybe you have to have wired smoke detectors and furnaces can't be a certain age. And I mean, if you put some parameters in place, that would eliminate a lot of these Airbnbs. But I hate to say, but I think some people will still operate under some other type of way without it. Where people like us that are following the rules and registering the properties and everything else that you're aware of, you can check the website anytime. I was on the Verbal this morning. I think there are only 6 houses registered on Verbal, and I only saw 12 or 14. It's hard to tell from the map which is actually South Buffalo, what's Lackawanna. But there's not as many that are operating, but I mean, you can find them, and I know there are some people that might list it for a couple weeks and then take it off, list it again. I understand that, but I just, like I said, I hope you can table this item and we can have a further discussion and see where we're at. I mean, we had people that stayed where they were placed with us after fire. We had Red Cross actually put people in our home that we opened it up to. So there's a lot of pros and cons, and you talk about being a community. I think we should be a community. We're not Buffalo. We're much smaller, much tighter knit. obviously Buffalo's a bigger area and they have more room for more issues with something like this, but, you said yourself you have one, but it's more in the tourist area, I understand, but, like I said, we're good neighbors, we've been putting a lot of money into the properties, improving the neighborhood, improving quality of life. We've been complimented many a times. I can show you pictures of the property before we purchased the property and what it looks like today. So permits were pulled for all improvements to the house. So we've been following everything that you asked us to follow. And just to rip the carpet from under us right now, I think it's not fair, especially when people that are operating didn't have a chance to speak in and speak with the planning board and everyone else that was involved in creating this ordinance.
Well, thank you, Mr. Minifield, and I'm sure the council will consider your request. We'll see if there's a motion to table. Anything further?
No, other than to just clarify that we've identified 20 of these sites in Lackawanna, so there are a fair number of them. Everything else has been talked about. So.
And mine are registered. It says Airbnb on the paper because I know Mrs. Turner wrote it on there when I paid the registration fee.
Sir, and I'm not a council member, but for every one of you who does it, as you say, the right way, there's, metaphorically 99 others that don't.
I
So,
understand. That's what I'm saying.
that's what they have to
There could be some type of
decide.
grandfather clause in this.
Well, that means the ones who may be offending the
Oh, trust me, if we're
Hear me
following,
out.
if
You
you
can
put
hear me
the
out.
grandfather clause in
If
and
you
we're following the
then
rules.
everybody's gotta be grandfathered in, and if you have problems with the other properties, that means they can continue doing what they're doing.
It's like you said, it's a business. So if they're not registered, it's to my advantage to report them as they're operating. So you're gonna have help from the other.
And I don't know
operators.
whether they're registered or whatever their circumstances are, but thank you,
Okay.
council will consider.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 23rd, 2024.
Random moves to adopt minutes, regular meeting September 23rd, 2024 is written.
Maflahe seconds.
Motion by Morano, second by Maflahe, to adopt minutes of the regular meeting of September 23rd, 2024 is written. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. Departmental reports 1 through 5.
Random moves to receive and file departmental reports 1 through 5 inclusive.
Moretti second.
Motion by Morano, second by Moretti, to receive and file departmental reports 1 through 5. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. City Attorney and Director of Development request the City Council approve the ordinance adding Chapter 178 transient or short-term rentals prohibited to the City Code.
Maflahe moves to table, agenda item.
Anderson second.
Motion by Maflahe, second by Anderson, to table item number 6. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. Number 7, request the City Council approve the ordinance amending Chapter 75 Building Code Administration of the Lackawanna Municipal Code.
Random moves to receive and file act on ordinance.
Moretti second.
Motion by Morano, second by Moretti, to receive and file act on ordinance. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. An ordinance amending Chapter 75 Building Code Administration, rescinding Chapter 75.16 and replacing said chapter, establishing a fee schedule for payment of applications, building permits, amended and renewed building permits, certificates of occupancy, fire safety and property maintenance, and other actions of code enforcement. Fee schedule attached.
Random moves to adopt ordinance is written.
Anderson second.
Motion by Morano, second by Anderson, to adopt ordinance as written. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. City Attorney requests City Council approve the proposed fire chief contract for August 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2028, and authorize mayor to execute same.
Random moves to approve for chief contract and for the mayor to execute same.
Moretti second.
Motion by Morano, second by Moretti, to approve the fire chief contract and for mayor to execute same. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. City Attorney requests the City Council approve the proposed police chief contract and authorize mayor to execute same.
Random moves to approve police chief contract for mayor to execute same.
Sirdike second.
Motion by Morano, second by Sirdike, to approve the police chief contract and for mayor to execute same. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. Kimberly Smith, resident, requests the city council approve the closure of Church Street in front of the Second Baptist Church on Saturday, October 12, 2024, from 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. for the First Ward Fall Festival.
Morano moves to approve request, refer to public safety, public works.
Maflahe seconds.
Motion by Morano, second by Maflahe, to approve request, refer to public safety and public works. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. Nikina Burse, Administrator for the Fall Festival, requests the City Council approve the closing of Lackawanna Avenue between Pearl Street and Washington Street for the Fall Festival on Saturday, October 26, 2024, from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m.
Maflahe moves to approve request, refer to public safety and public works.
Anderson second.
Motion by Maflahe, second by Anderson, to approve request, refer to Public Safety and Public Works. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. Ribna Nagi Al Noor International Retail Store, Middle Eastern Foods, Fruits, Tobacco, 1346 Electric Avenue.
Maflahe moves to table request.
Morano seconds.
Motion by Maflahe, second by Morano, to table request. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0. Adjournment.
Are there any tabled or old business items anyone like to raise at this time? If not, I would call on Attorney Dawn. There was some people who asked to address the council, last council meeting, regarding the officer at the Lackawanna schools. And there was a proposed contract, which I believe may come before this council at the next council meeting. And Attorney Dawn, can you give us a breakdown as to the pros and cons of the way this contract is playing out and it's being presented?
Sure, without getting into negotiations, there is currently a proposal of a contract to have at least one school resource officer in the Lackawanna City School District for the next 3 years, including this year, with the third year with the possibility of having 2 school resource officers in year 2026-27 school year. And previously, for the past 2 years, there was an agreement between the city of Lackawanna and the Lackawanna City School District where they would split the cost of the student resource, or excuse me, the school resource officer 50-50. But time-wise, the school resource officer is literally tied up in the school district 10 months out of the 12 months out of the year. So the contract or the concept of the contract was to be renegotiated so the Lackawanna City School District is incurring a fair percentage of the expense of the city police department losing that officer and having that officer placed in the school district. So again, without getting into negotiations, that's the summary of where we are today. And currently, there is a 3-year proposal that is being circulated, and an individual countered and said, well, why don't we just do it for 1 year? And that is currently being considered by both the city and the school district. But the actual concept that was negotiated is a full 3-year contract. And that's where we stand. Council President, do you have any questions, or should I explain anything in addition to that?
No, I think the general concern, Attorney Dawn, is that we need to be fiscally responsible in assigning any officers to the school and being reimbursed appropriately based on where the majority of the time of the officer is being spent, because that's going to require that we hire new police officers to fill those vacancies, is that correct?
It is correct, but one thing I didn't explain is what is the advantage for the city to still contribute towards the cost of this officer that spends most of his or her time in the school district. And you should be aware that the original concept behind the contract was to have a bridge between the police department and the schools, and to show students and faculty that police officers are there to protect and to serve and to assist, as opposed to just coming down on someone in times of a bad circumstance. The second positive point is that the school resource officer still works for the city, whether it's in overtime capacity or some marketing events on behalf of the city police department. And that has to be taken into consideration of the expense. The city does use this officer to a certain percentage of the school resource officer's time. The third point is that by agreeing to have a school resource officer with the school district and potentially having two over there in 2 years, that actually gives a healthy dynamic to the city, putting another new anticipated cadet through police officer training and getting that new officer into the city barracks where a more senior officer is appointed to the schools. And that also, there's a cost savings there because the more senior officer's salary is higher and the new cadet comes in at the beginning range. So you're saving money in that aspect too. And then finally, I would say the goal is after these 3 years is to increase the percentages even above 75%, possibly to 80% of the costs being picked up by the school district, and then 85% being picked up by the school district.
Thank you, Attorney Gott. I do believe the council understands the need, and it's wise to have an officer in the schools for a number of good reasons, security being paramount for the kids. We just are trying to be financially and fiscally responsible in making the best arrangement we can for the utilization of the officer and the costs involved with that. Because it's not only salary, it's benefits and retirement, healthcare, and so on and so forth. So any council members have any other comments on that?
Yeah, I do. Is there any way we can put them on provisional? So, we know this is gonna work it out somehow. Is there any way of putting them on?
So I'll just say the way negotiations have gone, I don't want to say that it's a guarantee, because, certain things are said by one side that is a total surprise to the other, and vice versa. So having a school resource officer is very important.
We have to wait another month.
Well, you have to wait till the next council meeting, right?
Right, which would be October 21st, but that is, right now, there is no contract before you to consider. In the school district, just as I requested a straw poll among the council, the school district requested a straw poll among the school board. And I don't know the result of that, but I do know a result of the straw poll of the council was, hey, not a 3-year contract, but let's consider 1 year.
And then work on the balance of the contract. Now, for clarification purposes, Attorney Gahn, the council is receiving criticism that we are the ones that are holding up this appointment or the filling of that position by the officer who had been designated and served in that position in the past. I would like to make it clear for the public's consumption that we didn't receive this contract from the city or the school district until, what was it, Wednesday of last week, when it was placed on the agenda?
Correct.
And we were first notified of this?
You're clear, I'll make clear that it is, the city council has had no hand in this whatsoever, and it has been negotiations between the school district and the city's law department.
Yeah, well, thank you for that clarification. It's your intention to put this before the council, the next council meeting, correct?
Correct, in one form or another, either a 1 year or a 3 year.
Yeah, very good. Any other council members have any comments on this? If not, Moreno makes a motion to adjourn.
Maflahe seconds.
Motion by Morano, second by Maflahe to adjourn meeting. Maflahe?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Sirdike?
Yes.
Morano?
Yes.
Carried 5-0.
Thank you, everyone.